Good afternoon. We'll call to order the Village Council meeting of April 28th, 2026, here at Assembly Hall. As is our tradition, we'll begin with an invocation being led today by Reverend Trey Mazur, the Associate Pastor of the Village Chapel in Pinehurst. Please, Pastor.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we as a community thank you for your blessings upon us. Help us to see your work in this world and in this community, and may we all seek for the peace of our village. We thank you for this council and the responsibility that you have placed on each of them. We ask that as they continue this much-needed work, you would bless them and their families in accordance with your will. Help them to be good stewards of this community, and may they work swiftly and efficiently during this meeting tonight. We also ask that you continue to bless our community, a community that strives for excellence, beauty, justice, and peace. Be with our first responders, our police and fire departments. Be with their families as they sacrifice for the peace and safety of others. And we pray you comfort the families who have made the ultimate sacrifice, our soldiers, firefighters, and law enforcement officers who gave their lives to defend this country and to help those in need. We pray your blessings on our doctors and nurses and those who tend to our physical needs. We pray you watch over and be with all those who serve the people of Pinehurst. Be with our clergy and our churches, that your name may be exalted through our words and actions, and that we would be known for our kindness, charity, and joy. We ask all of these in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All righty. We'll now go to item 3 on the agenda, reports. We'll begin with the village manager, Doug.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This upcoming weekend, there's a special treat at the Village Arboretum. The Imagine Youth Theater is doing The Sound of Music, both on Saturday and Sunday. And I have been listening to them practice outside of my window, and they're pretty good. So just a PA announcement there. Also, the library on Saturday, May 2nd at 10 a.m. is having a children's program designed for kids ages 3 to 10. So it's a great opportunity for kids to get out and socialize and have fun. And then next Friday is our Live After 5 on May 8th. It's the Whiskey Pines and the Parks Brothers, and so that will be 5 p.m. till about 9 p.m. And then just a reminder that it is still a burn ban. We did have a couple of days of rain, and hopefully we have a couple more, but we are still a village-wide, statewide burn ban. That's all.
Okay, thank you. The next item is Public Service Recognition Week. Takes place May 3rd through May 9th. It's a national celebration. I recall it in my years in Washington, and it obviously recognizes all those individuals who are involved in our governments at all levels of government, federal, state, and local, and recognize the contributions that they make to helping our country function. And so it's a good time if you bump into or know a local employee, just to thank them for their service. And I'm always reminded of the most famous of John F. Kennedy's quotes, which is associated with him drawing people to public service, which was ask not what your country do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And it prompted a lot of people to go to work for their federal government. At least that's what we're told, and I believe there's a lot of truth to that. So anyway, let's keep that in our thoughts, May 3rd through May 9th. On a few items to report in general, the Neighborhood Advisory Committee meeting was held last week, and I was myself and most of the council members were all there, and it was a good attendance by our Neighborhood Advisory Committee representatives. They received an overview of the FY27 budget from Dana, and they exchanged a lot of reports back and forth of what's going on in their neighborhood. So I think it was productive. I will point out two things that were mentioned there. One, if anyone lives in the Midland Road, East Midland Road area, we have a vacancy for a representative on the NAC. And we also have a few vacancies on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So citizens who may be listening or have an interest in any of those two opportunities, please come forward, and you can go on the website and apply. I also attended the Moore County ABC store grand opening up there near the airport. It was quite a big event, and I'll look forward to seeing many of the bottles purchased there in our recycling center at the Public Services Complex in the near future. And finally, I attended with Councilman Taylor, the More 100 had a meeting at the airport itself in one of the hangars there, and made a presentation about the potential restoring of commercial flights to the regional airport there. So that effort is underway, and the Moore County Economic Development Partnership is leading that. And that concludes my report. Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, he left. I'd like to thank the Reverend for including in his invocation the hope that we would all be efficient in our deliberations, and hopefully we don't conclude at 10 o'clock again this time. But we will be here as long as we need to be to get our business done. Of that I'm certain. Also attended the NAC meeting. I thought that, first of all, Dana made a not surprisingly terrific presentation, but more importantly, I thought we got some very good questions from the NAC representatives. I think how village government works is not well understood by the population at large. I think that the strides that Doug has made in reducing our document to something that's more comprehensible will help in that, but I hope that the NAC representatives can filter that out, because I thought they had good questions. Dana had good answers, and I thought it was very useful. Attended last night the I would call it the introductory, not meeting, but the interpersonal introductory meeting for the Senior Advisory Commission that Kevin put together. I thought that was a very good idea to do that. I think the people themselves got a lot out of it. Some of them knew one another's, but many did not. And I thought they did a good job of mingling among themselves. And I discovered several things which I think can be very useful to the council beyond what they will do for the SAC. This is an extraordinary list of people. And the human capital that they have is something that I think we will find beneficial in ways beyond the SAC. Did attend the More 100 meeting. They appear to be making very good progress toward achieving this needed revenue guarantee. And if I were a betting man, I would bet that they will actually get there, and that there will be a motion. They will be in motion towards starting commercial service in maybe 6 to 9 months. I'm not sure. I also spent several very interesting hours in the archives themselves doing some research related to the traffic circle. And in particular, it's been mentioned in the past that there used to be 2 travel lanes in the traffic circle, and one of them was taken out for reasons that no one could entirely explain. I think I've gotten to the bottom of that. And the interesting thing is, in all of the coverage, and there were 11 or 12 articles in the pilot, first of all, this all happened in 1998, not as early as I had thought. I thought it was the early 90s. And we were coming down here starting in 93. I don't remember the circle being that way, but that could be my memory. There was an enormous kerfluffle that developed around that, having nothing to do with the elimination of the lanes and having everything to do with the signage that DOT required. And in essence, they were required to put up signs that were both illuminated and of a size that met the standards that would be appropriate on an interstate. They had to be visible from a half a mile away in bad weather. Well, that may make sense when you're traveling 65 or 70 miles an hour. I'm not sure it makes sense if you're coming down Midland Road at 35 miles an hour. But in any event, this was the great debate that took place, so I found that educational. And that's it for me.
Jeremy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No new reports from me, just continuance of efforts on our traffic circle support, as well as met with staff on many of the PDO topics that we'll discuss later. I'll echo John, really, and congratulations to Kevin, continuance of that and the event last night, as well as two comments. Interesting enough, a past council member reached out to me and mentioned that he had a presentation one time that said Signhurst on the topic of too many signs around town that incorporate the traffic circle. So it's a great, I said, aha, when he sent that to me, because I said, okay, well, there's something to that. Particularly interested in going to the Sound of Music this weekend, because I never knew that I was interested in that, but the following Wednesday, I'll be in actual Salzburg, Australia, to where the Sound of Music was filmed. So I'm planning on re-performing that, and I'll video that for the next one. So thank you.
Okay. Reminds me of a joke my friend always used to say that every time he watches The Sound of Music, he wants to go visit Australia. And then everybody corrects him. But at any rate, Barb Ficklin, please.
Okay, thank you. Last week, Wednesday, I attended via Zoom the Central Pines Regional Council Board meeting, at which time they presented their budget for the year. Impressive organization. The budget is $36,388,094, so not too much larger than our own budget. They serve 7 counties. They provide an unbelievable number of services, primarily in 5 focus areas, and then they have a West Triangle transportation arm as well. It was very interesting. They had a list. It went on for 2 hours, just covering what the organization does, and the number of projects that they're involved in is actually staggering. So we're a part of that organization, and I know we probably work with them on a continuous basis, and I also know that one of their largest focus areas has to do with aging populations, so I'm sure that Kevin's new advisory council committee will be interacting a great deal with this organization. As a matter of fact, some of their members already do. Yesterday, I attended the Pinehurst Business Partners meeting prior to going to the Senior Advisory Council meeting, or reception, I should say. Interestingly, at the Pinehurst Business Partners meeting, which are always fun, but a topic came up that had also come up in the NAC meeting. And it was a real red flag, so I thought I would bring it up again here so everyone is aware of this. At the NAC meeting, someone mentioned in one of the neighborhoods, a resident had put overnight in a mailbox mail, put up the flag for pickup the next day, and someone stole the mail out of the mailbox, which contained a check, which was washed. And in that particular case, the check was recycled, and the amount actually exceeded the amount that was in the account, so it wasn't a disaster. However, the one at Pinehurst Business Partners that was explained was a completely different story. Same situation, overnight mail, red flag, stolen, washed check. The check had originally been made out for a couple $100. Whoever got it made it out for $9,800. The bank, anyway, the bank picked it up, and the bank manager, we were at meeting at First Bank, was there and said, this is something that Moore County has been targeted for recently. So everyone needs to be aware of the fact that you put mail in your mailbox overnight with a check in it, watch out. So the recommendation is take any mail that you have that has a check in it to the post office yourself and actually take it inside and put it in a slot while we're being targeted. So, unfortunate, but that kind of thing apparently comes and goes in waves, so beware. Finally, a final reminder of the Spring Garden Party. Next week, May 5th. Last day for tickets is April 30th. You can go to the website for tickets. This is the garden party that is the fundraiser for the Village Heritage Society, Village Heritage Foundation, sorry. And it's always a lot of fun. There's a raffle, there's refreshments. It's delightful. So hopefully you can make it and we'll have good weather for it. That's it for me.
Thank you, Barb. Kevin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank the council for coming in force to attend the reception we had last night for the Senior Advisory Committee, as the Mayor Pro Tem had mentioned. I thought it really lent a great environment to have that at the Tufts Archives, surrounded as we were by the artifacts representing that enduring spirit of Pinehurst. And I think that really resonated with the attendees. I want to mention especially Audrey, who's in the back there. Audrey not only agreed to open up the archives to us for this special purpose, but she showed a lot of imagination and creativity in making it truly special. So Audrey, a great deal of gratitude to you for making that happen and happen well. I would also mention that we did have wine available for attendees, and that the wine was paid for by private funds and no public funds went into the purchase of alcohol. The first meeting of the Senior Advisory Committee will be on Monday, May 4th at 3 p.m., and we look forward to getting the show on the road, as it were. And then one final note is the sidewalk project in number 6. What a great success. I mean, hitting the ball out of the park. Congratulations and gratitude to Mike Apke and his team for being liaising with the contractors so effectively, but also the affected homeowners, and keeping everyone on sides, if you will. But they're moving very rapidly, and utilization is strong. There's people out there all the time. And so thank you all very much for your investment in the community.
Kevin, the SAC meeting a week from yesterday is here, correct, in this room?
I believe it's going to be in this room. Doug and I haven't talked about that yet, but I think it has to be because the conference room will have the beautification committee going on at the same time.
We have other rooms, but for, we'll probably have 15 people or so, so maybe this is best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. All righty, let us go to item 4 on the agenda. That's the motion to approve consent agenda. All the items listed are considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held unless requested by a member of the Village Council. We will be voting on the April 14th regular meeting minutes and also on the April 14th work session minutes.
I did notice one, as is noted here, one phrasing having to do with some DOT projections that I thought it was best to correct, to give the correct impression and to conform with the resolution we ultimately adopted. So with that in mind, I move to approve all the items listed and considered routine on the consent agenda with the following amendment to the April 14th, 2026 regular meeting minutes, item 6A. In the second paragraph, it should read, quote, and further discussed the request that NCDOT revise the projected 2050 traffic volume and calculate the performance of all possible designs using the revised projection.
A motion?
Second?
Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So adopted. All righty. That ends the consent agenda. We will go to proclamations. And we have 3. We have the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend and Fallen Firefighters Memorial Day coming up. That's May 2nd and 3rd, and the day itself is May 3rd. We have the 2026 National Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. That's the week is May 10th through May 16th, and May 15th is the day. And we have the 2026 World Facilities Management Day, May 13th. It's it's not unusual. These are all falling also during the Public Service Recognition Week, so it's quite the fit. I think I would like to read these, Shannon, if you can bring them up, because it involves our public safety staff and the importance they play in the quality of life in this village. So this proclamation reads, whereas firefighters across our nation courageously serve their communities, risking their lives to protect people, property, and natural resources, and whereas each year firefighters make the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty, demonstrating unparalleled dedication, bravery, and selfishness, and whereas the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation honors these heroes by hosting the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend on May 2nd through 3rd, 2026, a time when communities across the country pause to remember and pay tribute to fallen firefighters. And whereas on Sunday, May 3rd, 2026, Fallen Firefighters Memorial Day offers a solemn opportunity to reflect on the sacrifices made by firefighters and their families, and to express our collective gratitude for the unwavering commitment to public safety. And whereas it is fitting that the village of Pinehurst joins the nation in honoring these courageous individuals, supporting their families and colleagues, and recognizing the essential service provided by firefighters every day. And whereas our community is strengthened and safeguarded by the dedication of firefighters who stand ready at all hours to respond to emergencies, protect lives, and uphold the highest ideals of service, therefore, we hereby proclaim May 2nd through 3rd as National Firefighters Memorial Weekend, and May 3rd as Fallen Firefighters Memorial Day in the village of Pinehurst, and encourage all residents, businesses, and community organizations to join in honoring the memory of our fallen firefighters and expressing appreciation for all who continue to serve. Thank you. Let us go on to National Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. This is also a proclamation that whereas in 1962, the United States Congress and the President of the United States designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the Police Department of the Village of Pinehurst, North Carolina, play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Pinehurst, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, hazards, responsibilities, and sacrifices of their police department, and whereas members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the police department of the Village of Pinehurst provide a vital public service, therefore, we call upon all our citizens and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 10th through May 16th as Police Week in the Village of Pinehurst, and with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our citizens may join in commemorating law enforcement officers past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to the responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to the communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. So therefore, the Village of Pinehurst will observe May 15th, 2026 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respects to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Thank you. And the last proclamation will deal with World Facilities Management Day. Whereas World Facilities Management Day is observed annually to recognize the essential work of the dedicated professionals who ensure that public buildings, grounds, facilities remain safe, functional, sustainable, and welcoming for all. And whereas the Village of Pinehurst benefits daily from the expertise, commitment, and professionalism of its facilities management team, whose work directly supports our community's quality of life and the smooth operation of municipal services. And whereas the village's Buildings and Grounds Department provides exceptional stewardship of our public facilities, parks, and landscaped areas, maintaining environments that reflect Pinehurst's character, beauty, and high standards of excellence. And whereas the Harness Track Department contributes uniquely to Pinehurst heritage by maintaining and operating one of the community's most iconic and historic assets, ensuring it remains safe, well cared for, and accessible for trainers, horses, residents, and visitors. And whereas facilities management professionals often work behind the scenes, yet play a vital role in delivering reliable infrastructure, promoting safety and sustainability, and supporting community events, recreational amenities, and essential municipal operations. And whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize and honor the individuals whose hard work, technical skill, and dedication strengthen our village every day, we hereby proclaim May 13th as World Facilities Management Day in the Village of Pinehurst, and encourage all residents to join with me in expressing appreciation to our Buildings and Grounds Department, the Harness Track Department, and all facilities management professionals for their outstanding service to our community. I remind us all to keep in mind that just recently we had an example of the matinee races at the Harness Track, which I participated in and live to continue to attest to it. And we heard earlier tonight from our colleague Kevin Fitzpatrick about the outstanding work that was done in the sidewalks in Pinehurst number 6. And I think I speak for everyone, not a day goes by where we don't have somebody compliment us on how nice and well and beautiful that the village looks, particularly here in springtime. So to those sometimes nameless individuals that work hard to maintain that, we thank you. Thank you, Shannon. We'll now get to item 6, public comments. Shannon, do we have any? This is the time where the public is invited to come up before the council and voice their opinions on any topic. And you could have signed up, or if you had not signed up and you still would like to speak, just indicate so and you can come right up and speak at the microphone. Seeing no one, we will move on and close the public comments period, and we will now go to resolutions. The first resolution is 2619, approving the lease for Barn 19 at the Harness Track. Doug, I'm going to ask you to tee it up for us.
Yep, so Barn 19, we lease out. We have been leasing it out to an individual, and we would like to continue to do that. So we have advertised this in association with our North Carolina general statutes. So we have not received anyone else that is interested. So we recommend moving forward with the lease. It is with Scott Norris, I believe is his name.
Yes.
And so that he's been a good partner and a good tenant, so we recommend moving forward with this.
Okay, unless someone has something to discuss, we can move on and consider an adoption of such resolution.
I had one very minor question.
Go ahead.
The rent adjustment is based on CPI for the 12-month period ended April 30th. Is that 12-month period, is that a number that is already published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or is that something that we have to calculate, and if so, should it be specified that we're the ones calculating it?
I think we use the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and
So every month they say, here's this month, and then for 12 months it's X?
Yeah.
So we don't have to calculate anything?
Right.
Terrific, thank you.
Okay. All righty. Would you like to, Mayor Pro Tem Taylor, would you like to move to formalize the resolution adoption?
I move to approve Resolution 26-19, approving the lease for Barn 19 at the Harness Track to Scott Norris for the 5-year term beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30, 2031, and further authorize the village manager to execute the lease agreement.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion adopted. All righty, let us move on to ordinances. Ordinance 8A, consider ordinance 26-10, amending the FY26 general fund budget for the GIS software subscription. Doug, I guess this falls upon you.
Yep, this sounds really confusing, but it's actually pretty simple. So we got a new 3-year contract for our GIS services, so it's a roughly $20,000 a year. which is about $1,800 more annually than it was previously. But to make the accounting work with this Sabita, well, I forget what they actually call it, but we need to show it as a budget adjustment and then show it as revenue so they offset each other. So at this time, there's no change in the actual budget that we're doing as far as net overall change.
Questions or discussion?
I'm sorry, so we did not expect this amount?
Yeah, so it just barely got renewed, and so it's slightly more, and so we're going back and just adjusting the budget to meet the
We had
new
plugged into the budget a renewal, assuming this, the same number, it's going up $1,800, and we're
Yeah.
just making that adjustment.
Yes.
Right?
I move to approve ordinance 26-10, amending the FY 2026 general fund budget for the Geographic Information System, GIS software subscription.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted. Let us go to item 9, which is regular business. We have 2 items here. First is a discussion regarding the Tufts Archives and fundraising naming opportunities. And the second one will have to do with real estate advisory service proposals. I know we've received some information. I'm looking for mine. Here we go. And I suppose, Doug, maybe you want to lead the discussion. I do have some questions, and one of them is I'm wondering whether or not it's more appropriate to label these as drafts right now.
Oh, they certainly are.
They are, okay. I didn't see that on them, so that answers one question. They are drafts, so, okay.
Yeah, so let me
Go
tee
ahead.
it up a little bit. So talking about the archives, we are working with our architect to try to determine how big the archives is going to be. So as we've discussed before, there's a potential expansion kind of filling in the dumbbell area. So the architects are trying to figure out how much that will cost. So one of the issues is it may require additional fire flows and sprinklers, and so we are getting a fire flow test to see if that's the case. And anyway, that's an ongoing process that is taking a little while, and we're waiting on the county to actually do the test.
Do you think we'll be prepared to discuss it next month?
I would think so.
Okay, that's fair enough. I'm trying to,
I also thought maybe it would have been able to be done today, so
all right, well, next
But
month's fine, okay.
it's close.
Okay.
But anyway, we hope to get to a point very soon where we can decide exactly what we want the ultimate footprint of the archives to be, and then we can work with the architect to design it out and be well on our way to have it open or to start on it when the library opens and the current items in there are able to move out.
Yes.
All right, so moving on from that, we've had discussions in the past about how we're doing the fundraising work for this, and so,
Doug, can maybe we stop just on that first part?
yep.
Please refresh my memory. Beyond this discussion of whether to modestly increase the existing footprint or not, is Oakley Collier engaged in an evaluation of what needs to be done? For example, there have been reports that there are water issues in the basement. Are they evaluating things like that, which are independent of whether the footprint gets larger or not?
Yeah, we walked through a few of those items. We met on site about a month ago and showed them some of those issues in the basement, and there's a few issues out front as well. So we are going to address all those issues when we renovate.
And what would the rough timeline be for at least an initial report on that?
So when they come back to us, we
I guess what I would call the overall renovation as distinct from whether it's 9,000 or 9,600, whatever the numbers are.
right, yeah, and soon, like in the next month. So we are trying to get to a point. I forget what our contract said, but it was like 10 to 12 weeks, and we're 4 weeks into it. So
Great,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
I would encourage us to, when it's ready, wrap it all up in one discussion. I think it'd be helpful for us all, and okay, thank you.
I think this is sort of separate and apart from fundraising
yeah,
efforts.
it
so,
certainly
okay.
is.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So moving on to the next discussion about fundraising and naming opportunities. So we've discussed it in the past, and we kind of need to put a framework on how we're going to do this. And so I kind of outlined what might be an option moving forward is that we set specific amounts for different rooms and different things that people could donate to, and that then we could hand that over to the Given Tufts organization, which will be the fundraising arm of this endeavor, which we've talked about and have an agreement to do well, actually when the archives and library were turned over to the village. So just, I will kind of just highlight, this is, as the mayor said, in draft form. We just kind of put this out there, trying to encourage people why they should give to the village. And here's just some opportunities to name things in the village, or sorry, in the two different buildings, in the library and in the archives. So we can talk about these dollar amounts specifically if we feel that they're too high, too low. That's kind of what we want to get a feel from the council if this looks appropriate, and if so, we'll work with the Given Tufts organization and try to finalize a plan to get moving on some of the fundraising efforts.
Yeah, I have a few questions. One threshold question I have is, who does the donor write the check out to? Are they writing the check out to the Village of Pinehurst, or do they write it out to the foundation? Because I think that is very important when it comes to donor intent, and it's probably important to some other things too. We have people who contribute property to the village sometime and so forth. So what are we going to do there? How do we spell that out? And,
Yeah,
and then I have
so
a few other questions.
I believe the best way to move forward with this is when they donate it, it would be to a grant account with the village that will be used to pay for capital projects directly with the village.
Okay, that's helpful.
Certainly, there are other opportunities that people can donate to the Given Tufts organization as a foundation and to build up their endowment or other things. But if they're going to be donating through this program, I think those monies go directly to the village.
Okay, that's a terrific clarification. Two, I looked at the naming opportunities, and I'm supposing there's some history behind this of how someone selects a dollar amount to go with a certain room. But I noticed that there, and by the way, some of these things that are named, I know some people may giggle, but you'd be surprised how many people will put their name on a small room or a desk or something for purposes of supporting their community or a cause. So, but I did notice that the circulation desk area and the meeting room, while one is twice the size of the other, they're both, the naming level is both the same dollar amount. So I wonder sometimes how that gets figured out. And there are professionals who can advise us, I'm sure, but that one jumped out at me. Secondly, what I do remember is from, it was August of 24 when Cap Dev, who was a consultant in the fundraising world, who came before us, and they had done a study, and they provided us with a summary of their highlights. And one of the things they mentioned was that there is that they thought there lacked a compelling argument for philanthropic support for the library, because most people saw new library funding as a village responsibility. But they thought there was strong support for a multi-million-dollar capital campaign for reservations of the Village Green building and expansion of the archives. So they made a distinction between the two properties in their report. So I think it's something we need to factor in so that we don't false expectations of how much we can possibly raise here. For all I know, we're going to, our cup will runneth over, but we just don't know that yet, so I think we've got to temper the expectations. We have the money set aside to build these facilities. The additional contributions to enhance these facilities and to have more people have our residents in particular, have a skin in the game, I think is a very good idea. So I just think we need to think about that as we go to the next step here. But go ahead, John.
If I could follow up on that a little, because I've been involved with a lot of fundraising efforts, in particular for buildings or for tangible assets, mostly for schools, where the donation is tax deductible. And I think as Pat just suggested, we're going to build the library. We've already started that, and we're going to renovate the archives if they don't raise a dollar. So this is not fundraising in the classical sense. We don't
Right.
need to raise a certain amount or we're not going forward. We're going forward with this anyway. If the donation were to be to a grant account at the village, my interpretation would be that that is not a tax exempt account. Versus if the donation were made to the foundation, it might be, I'm not giving tax advice here,
If it's to the village, it's also tax deductible.
is it?
Yeah.
I thought so. Be-
Understand. And
Because we
we're-
received property in the past from individuals.
Yeah, we can ask Dana.
Yeah.
But I am
I mean, we are not
Fairly certain.
501c3, but we are 501c something else? or-
something.
Okay.
Yes, something.
Doug, just to,
Yeah, excuse me, Kevin, for 1 minute. Do we have any, we know what the foundation organization thinks, has said they think they can raise, but we don't, there's not a target per se.
Right, and both to your and Pat's point, we're providing the cake. If we can get a little extra icing on it, that's great. That's kind of what we're shooting for.
And at the end of the day, from an accounting standpoint, that just reduces our net cost. That money effectively goes back into fund balance, whatever we raise.
And
Or we will do something above and beyond what was the original plan.
in the same breath, I don't want to hold the Given Tough Foundation to some target or mark. I don't think that's fair to them. And, but I agree with what you're pointing out,
And
so.
my last question is, how were these numbers come up? Who said it should be 75, not 50 or 100?
That was my genius. so.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not saying intrinsically these numbers are wrong. I was just curious whether we had quote-unquote professional input or whatever. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Go ahead.
no,
Kevin?
actually, it was the same question that I had. Did we benchmark these dollar amounts against similar projects in North Carolina, perhaps?
So what I did is, CapDev gave us a report a couple of years ago when they did it, and so they had a goal that they thought could be raised, and so I kind of split that out amongst all the different naming opportunities, knowing we weren't going to name everything, and so roughly, if we named, half to 2/3 of these things, we get to that goal that CapDev had set.
And just one last comment, and that is looking through the totality of this document, I think there's some great staff work in here. So a lot of effort's already gone into this.
And I mean, if again, if this were traditional fundraising and you thought you needed $3 million to build the building, there's actually a quasi-formula to break that down. From recollection, the 80-20 rule applies, and you think you're going to get 2 of the largest category gifts and 5 of the next, and
Yeah,
you build a
exactly,
pyramid
right.
like that. We don't need to do that. But are we using that same thought process, or are we just kind of putting some numbers there and whatever we get, we get?
I don't want to necessarily say the latter, but there was some thought put into it, but it is, you're right, we are not seeking a certain goal or else the project doesn't happen.
Right.
So
And it's hard to do in the absence of that in some sense. I think you have a difficult job here, so I'm not being critical, I'm just asking questions.
Yep. Yeah. Also, this is just a proposal. We haven't worked it out in detail with the Given Tufts organization, but we just wanted to give them some sort of a framework, like this is what we're thinking that you can offer to people as a way to solicit donations.
I like the specificity here. I did notice that 2 items that are labeled multipurpose rooms are not naming opportunities, but there's a dollar value in there. So I guess my only advice is that we should take nothing off the table. But and if someone insists they want their name on the audiovisual room, they can, that's,
Yeah.
we're flexible, I would like to think.
Yeah, I think we would name the janitor closet if someone wanted to.
Right,
yes.
right. Okay, you're right about that.
I'd have to go back and double check the actual agreement, but the name of the actual library and the name of the actual archives, I don't think we want to.
No, we don't want to do that. no. It's
Doug,
the-
has the foundation seen this yet?
They have not, so.
So I'm having an introductory meeting with the new executive director, Lindsay Mason, on Thursday. So
Please share it with Lindsay and
would that be appropriate?
Yeah,
information.
Or if you could get
I
it to her
will
ahead of
forward
time.
this to them tomorrow, but feel free to bring it up when you meet with them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I guess to cap this off, we have a good draft document here to begin our thoughts in this process. A grant account in accordance with the statutes of North Carolina will eventually be set up for VOP. We are awaiting a little more detail as to how many square feet that archive will be in the end. And we will share with Givens Tufts what we have so far. And we'll look forward to the next, whenever Oakley, Collier, and whoever you want to bring is here to walk us through this. The public sees on a regular basis, depending on who you bump into in the village. Someone's driven past the clearing there, and they always make a comment. So that's very good. And so they're looking forward to a library being there someday. So anyway, I think that's a visual that shows progress on the part of the village, and we can be proud of that. Does anyone have anything else they want to discuss regarding this?
I have one
Barb?
minor question. I'm sure this is overly optimistic, but the community giving opportunities, are there any limits? Any we can,
Well, I think we would limit benches. We actually haven't like planned how many benches where they would go, but there does come a point where you have too many benches.
Good point. Yes, it's.
Since we're on this screen, maybe the bricks, I think we should probably bump that up to like maybe 250, just because by the time you order the brick and you get it engraved, you almost spent $100 on that one brick, so it's not really raising much money.
I would concur with that suggestion.
Yeah, but we do want to have an opportunity where the community, like everyday people, can contribute to the library or the archives. Not everyone has $20,000 to donate to a project, but
Correct.
you know, most everyone in our community could donate a brick.
Good suggestion.
There could be a general Friends of the Library or Friends of the Archives to aggregate such donations and yet recognize people.
Possibly. Okay, all right. Thank you, Doug. Now we have Real Estate Advisory Services. Doug?
Yeah,
We have
so-
a memo from you. Go right ahead.
Yeah, just stepping back a little bit, we're talking about the Village Place redevelopment. A few months ago, we talked about what this process is going to look like, and we determined that it would be nice to have a consultant on our side to make sure that while we go through the process, it's fair, it's equitable for us and the other parties involved. So we did put out a request for qualifications. We'll see that we got 2 qualified proposals back. They are what I would say on the very expensive side, but I think maybe our intent was entirely clear that the village staff and our attorney are going to be doing much of the legwork on this, and that it'll be more like, okay, here's what we have worked out. You review it, make sure it's appropriate. And so I think we can bring the price down, because one was a $200,000 price proposal and one was $150,000. And we only have $50,000 kind of earmarked for this. So I went back to the one that we ranked as the highest and most advantageous consultant and told them, you know, it's going to be time and materials, but don't expect it to get to this $200,000 that you put in there. We are planning on doing much of the legwork ourselves and want you to just review for accuracy and to make sure that it's fair for all parties involved.
Can you describe to us the period of time you think this will encompass and what will be the council's role and so forth, so we have just a conception of where we're headed?
Yeah, so what one of the first steps we'll need to do is come up with a draft term sheet. So this is what the village is willing to give to the project, which would most likely be the disposition of our parcels that we own there. And then what will the developer and who is associated with the developer, what they're willing to do, which will be building something that we have some say in, as well as building the public infrastructure that will eventually be turned back to the village. So once we get those terms all kind of agreed upon, that's a point where the consultant will come in and say, yes, this looks good, this is what the pricing should be, and then we'll bring that back to the council, make sure that we're Collier and Duval on the same page. From there, if we can get to an agreement, we put together a development agreement. That development agreement kind of lays it all out in very minute detail. That has to be held in a public hearing. I think it has to go to the planning board and to the village council. So there's public opportunity to voice, concerns or anything on that. And eventually, the development agreement will say exactly what we're doing and what the developer is doing and what the process
One
of
question.
construction is, yeah.
I think I understand you to say, what, in the end, we are selling the land.
Yeah.
Okay, but on whatever conditions we put such, okay.
So, yep, we're selling the land, but also they'll be building the public infrastructure that's involved, the roadway. And do those completely offset each other, or is there a cash exchange that needs to happen? And that's what we want the consultant to make sure that we got the right price.
Okay, I'm going to put one of my colleagues on the spot who's got some experience in this. He knows who he is. Jeremy, is there any thing you'd like to opine on while we're all here and we can learn a little?
No, I'll mention that I just think council needs a little bit of understanding of really the scope that we want to accomplish overall with the development process and agreement. We're aware of our small area plan, we're aware of the pictures and what we ultimately want to accomplish with the streets. I think that this is the most important topic that this village will face over the next, past 20 years and the forward 10. We just don't want to get this wrong. And I think that's the value of a real estate or the advisor that we mentioned. Just somebody who take a look at it. When we're talking about handing over property for services, we want to make sure it's correct and equitable to our citizens. And I think that's where I don't have the experience of that. We need that experience, but I also don't want to overshoot our need. I don't know if we need that $200,000 worth of service. I agree with you there, but I think council may need a little bit of perspective of what we need before we can truly make a lot of decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, not that we have a lot of experience as staff on this specific issue, but I don't think this is overly complex. We're doing this, you're doing this, and we just need to make sure the values are fair.
We may have other options, though, is what I'm saying. So do we do phase, 1A just all together? Do we ever do everything we can? I think those are certain steps that we got to work through as council.
Yeah, and I believe, this can always change, it's somewhat fluid, but I believe right now we are just really focusing on this phase 1A where the water tanks are.
Right, that's what we had discussed in the past. And
Yeah.
if we can get that one right, we'll be in a position to go further, and we'll have the confidence of both. We'll gain some of our own confidence, but the community will have some confidence that the decisions we're making are in the best interest of the village, I think.
I would actually extend Jeremy's statement. There's an aspect of the fairness of any valuation, if you will. Okay, we don't want to give away the store here. I think we have a dual challenge in making sure that this is net additive and not does not become competitive to our existing downtown area. That would be a very bad thing, no matter what value we derive from this. The third thing is, I think it's possible because of the scope of what these people have done and the developers with whom they have worked, that we may be focused on 1A, and they may come back to us and say, well, we think we could do 1A and 1. They may expand the project in a reasonable way that we're not anticipating. I think we have to be prepared for that, but that's the benefit of having professionals. The last thing that I would say is I found some of the examples that HRNA proposed seem to be more in keeping with what we are trying to do, which is not to suggest that RCL Co. hasn't done those also. They just didn't happen to put them. I mean, doing the 100-acre campus for the Tennessee Titans Stadium, I was in Nashville not that long ago in a
overshoots
hotel looking down on that.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing, okay? They may be great at that, and I also thought there were a couple of things in the HRNA statement where we could do some independent background checking. The city of Wilson is one. The project they did for Wake Forest and the Innovation Quarter up in Winston-Salem, I have some good contacts up there. So to the extent we want to take another step, I think we can do that.
Yeah, and looking at the prices, like HRNAs, they had, almost $70,000 just to, draft the development agreement. And I think that's something that, our attorney can do, and they can just review.
What do you think will be our next charge for this? You're going to go out and
Yeah, so.
nail something down, or?
Yep, so we're at the point where we're getting appraisals on our properties.
Okay.
And then we will work together, work out a term sheet, like I mentioned before. I think that's our real next step. And once those things have been finalized, we come back to the council and kind of lay out what that looks like.
I noticed the assessed value of in Exhibit C of the parcels that we anticipate for evaluation, it's about 1.9 million. So I guess that's from the tax rolls, right?
Yeah, and not all of those will be fully transferred. So a couple of those are just, we cut off a corner of the parcel.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
So, to add on to John as well, we've recently approved some commercial construction on the corner of Rattlesnake and McCaskill that's got to be factored in also, as well as respecting our other more on Rattlesnake. And we don't want to overshadow our core businesses by creating more competition for them. And certainly, this is where the real estate advisors will be able to help us, because they can forecast what's our opportunity to filling those spaces with what type of businesses. And I think that's important for us to understand as well, because I think the risk, I've shared some risk in the past. One of the risk is building too much at once, and then whoever owns that property then needs to make some rent on that property, and they may entertain the type of business or national business that our citizens don't want. So I think that's risk number one. And I think is when we talk about the look of this and really the compatibility of our historic nature, I'm concerned about that a lot. Concerned about those steps. And there's some previous relationships with that 1A area that I think we got to discuss. But I'm a big fan of developers in Moore County, but I'll say I think that we have to, for our citizens and for our stake, we have to consider that there's more than one developer out there. I think that's just part of our duty.
No,
So it's bigger than Moore County is what I'm saying.
Right, even relative to these assessed valuations, the way a developer will look at it is somewhat independent of this. They really don't care what the assessed valuation is. They care what can they buy it for. And they know what those costs are either for demolition or what have you, and redevelopment. And then what can they sell it for? That's where they make their profit. So these things, the old water tanks are worth more value or worth more from a redevelopment standpoint than they are from a static, nothing's going on there.
Yep, yeah.
Right, I'm surprised they're valued at that much, but that's a different question.
Yeah, I think both Jeremy and John, you have mentioned this, that if we kill the village core by doing these things, we've created ourselves a much bigger problem than money we could have ever make out of this project. So,
Right.
yeah, that's a great thing to keep
Just
in mind.
prudence is what I'm preaching.
We can do that. I don't think it's an insurmountable task, but we need to be careful.
All right, other comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, well, this is excellent progress, and we'll look forward to the next steps, and you'll keep us informed.
Yeah,
All right,
on initial review, these are two very well-qualified firms. I
Yeah.
think they're offering more than we need. We'll negotiate that down.
Yeah,
so.
agreed. And the HRNA, they're local. They're in North Carolina. I felt like they actually read the qualification, our request for qualifications, actually responded to it. I think that they,
They might even have read our comp plan.
Yeah,
I
you're right.
couldn't be sure, but they might have.
yeah, it seemed like they were interested and really wanted to do this work. So the other one kind of, I felt like they just gave us their resumes and called it good.
Yeah, the HRNA, they were relative to our needs.
Yeah.
And the other one wanted us to know how big they were.
Yeah.
And great.
Yes.
So.
All right. Well, thank you, Doug, and we'll look forward to the next steps.
Just to be clear, so I have the authority to go and negotiate a contract. with
Absolutely.
HRNA. Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other business, I'll open it up to anyone's thoughts. If there's any business that you'd like to mention that we take up now, or something you'd like to remind us that we ought to be taking up in the next meeting or two. That's hearing none. I will entertain item 11, and we can take,
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
We just adjourned for 5 minutes. How's that sound?